All right, we're back. It is COMP308 in the winter 2017 semester. That's emerging technologies at Centennial, and we are week 1, part 3 of our broadcast. I say broadcast because we're broadcasting live on YouTube for those people who haven't had me before, and I'm also recording locally just in case something happens with the internet connection, which happens a lot in this room. Okay, so we covered Mongo installation. We covered Node installation. We covered GitHub installation. And now I want to do a little bit of a test. But I want to talk about how Node works a little bit and why we chose Node. So I'm going to kind of erase this one. And we're going to start a new one of these drawings. So, okay, let me ask you this question. How does a traditional server fetch a page? Like, what happens? Tell me the process. Can anyone talk about the process of I'm a user and I want to get an index.html page. How do I get that page? What's the process involved from client to server? What do I do? Client says something to server, but I go to the browser, yeah? I put in my URL, and then the server responds with something. Okay, so this looks like something like this. And again, forgive me for my drawing prowess here, but let's say you have a client. So here's your client machine. Okay, so I'm going to draw my client, and we'll make it the old, Mac with kind of like a keyboard that's built in, like one of these, right? So some kind of keys there, right? There's that really old Mac. It's all one, right? And then, so this is the client, and then the client has some kind of browser, right? And here's the server. It's a server that's a little bit not straight. How about that? Here's the server. And the server is probably most likely, guess what? In the cloud, right? Nowadays it's probably like on Azure. It could be somewhere else. You don't know where the hell the server is, right? The server might have an IP address, right? To access it, right, somewhere. And the server is going to be the web. We're talking about a web server here, right? So what the client browser does is it sends a request, right, off to the server. So here's the request. I'm putting it REQ for a reason, right? And then what happens is the server processes the request. So here's the process of the request, right? And after the process is done, it returns a response back to the client, right? So this whole request response system, it's a round trip is what we call it, right? Goes out, comes back, right? Nice and easy. And what does it respond with? Usually some kind of page, right? Like let's say the index.html page, right? That's what it usually comes back with, or some kind of page. When we request the URL, it comes back with that URL. It actually draws the URL on the browser. That's what it does, okay? But it does it automatically, right? And if I go to contact.html, or if I go to about.html for that particular page or whatever, it's going to render that page too. But it's doing it because inside the server, there is some kind of routing table, right? That's what it has. It has a routing table in the server. It tells you, well, if I go to about.html, I want you to go to this folder, grab about.html, return it back to the client, right? A lot of times for us, it's automatic. Node.js, when you work on Node.js, manual. We got to decide the routing table, where it comes from, what it's looking at, the whole thing. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to show you a little app with Node.js, and we're going to set it up, and we're going to put it up on GitHub. Okay, Node.js. Again, please forgive my drawing, but it's like the blackboard. So I want you to go back to the Node server. So we're going to, in order for us to install and run Node, I want you to go to Node. And one of the things that it has for Node.js, if I kind of click back to nodejs.org, right? There's a lot of information over here already, right? So under Node, if you go to About, there's some little piece of code here. So we're going to use this little code, and I'll explain it step by step. The other thing I want to do now is I also want to use Visual Studio Code for the first time. Now, I did this earlier. I did this, COMP308, Winter 2017, Lesson 1, but you guys are Section B, so I'm just going to kind of kill this folder, and I'll make a new folder on the desktop. When I'm using Visual Studio Code, I'm using the desktop. You can use wherever you want to use, right? So here's my folder on the desktop, and I'm going to call this COMP308, and then it's going to be Winter 2017 and then lesson 1B, because you guys are lesson 1B. Lesson 1A, that was this morning. All right. I'm going to bring up VS Code. Here's VS Code. Right? It doesn't matter whether you're Mac or Windows now. All right? It's the same. And I'm going to drag and drop my folder into Visual Studio Code. Right? What it's going to do is it's going to give me access to the operating system direct. That's what VS Code does. That's what Atom does. That's what Sublime does. A lot of these code editors, that's what they do. So notice that it says COMP308 W2017 lesson 1B. That's the folder, right? Well, in order for me to run an app, typically what we have is when we run a server, we run it in a JavaScript file. There's 3 names that are logical for the server to have for Node: index.js, server.js, right? And app.js. Those are the 3 possible names we can choose. You'll see iterations of all that on the web. You might see different people using different names, right? I'm going to use app.js today. So click this new button, and we're going to call it app.js. Here's app.js. Under app.js, I'm going to copy and paste that code we got from the web. So this code right here, right? So copy paste all this into here. Now let's explain all this stuff. Save. First of all, we have the following. Const. Const means constant. And I have something new you probably have never seen before. This, require, right? What's happening here? Anyone have an idea? Anyone have a clue? What's happening? Yes, Kyle. I like it. So what I'm doing, require is actually part of Node.js. It's the common JS way of getting, or modular way, the require JS way of getting a reference to a built-in library, which is this module HTTP. So the module HTTP, we're getting a reference to this module, and it's sitting inside of this HTTP variable, which actually is a constant, right? We've named it a constant. Do I have to name it a constant? No. I can use the let keyword if I want. I could use the var keyword, but why? Right? I want to probably use const or let. That's probably the right thing to do. All right, so I'm getting a reference to the HTTP module. Next, I've got 2 things. The host name, 127.0.0.1. That's where the server is going to run. And the port 3000. You can choose whatever port you want. Port 8080, port 3000. Just don't choose port 80. That would be bad, because port 80 is the local server. Most likely it's going to be in use, right? Okay, so these are understandable, these things. Now we get into some difficulty. I'm going to make this a little bit large so we can see what this all means. Okay, here's something where we get a little crazy. I'm creating another object called server. I'm making it const again, right? Now again, do you have to make it const? No, I can make it. I can use the let keyword or var keyword in here, right? But here it is. I'm using the HTTP service, right, or module, and I'm using this, which is a static method of the HTTP service, right, called create server. And now we get into some funky syntax. What the hell is that, right? This is ECMAScript 6, right, where we have request and response. We just talked about request response, right? Remember? Request response. Well, that's where it is. Request response is right here. Here's a request. Here's a response. And the request response, this fat arrow is how we call it. This fat arrow function, or arrow functions, is what it's returning. It's actually returning an object. The object is the response object. Okay, that's what it's returning. So it gets a request from the user, and a reference to the response object. That's a server response. And it's returning a response with a status code of 200, which means everything is okay. That's what status code 200 means, right? And we're going to use the response objects method, right, set header, to set the header of the page that it's returning to content type text plain, right? And it's going to end off the response with a hello world. So it's actually going to give us an empty page. There's no HTML, with just a hello world. That's it. Okay, that's what it's going to respond with. Remember what I said earlier. Node.js is an event-driven system, right? It uses a single thread, okay? Compared to other stacks that we've seen before, like, for example, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. the AMP stack, right? AMP, WAMP for Windows, MAMP for Mac, LAMP for Linux, right? It's in the AMP stack. And that was like when you were doing the AMP stack, you were considered a full stack developer, right? Now full stack developer means the mean stack. So that's the latest stack. Microsoft has their stack too, right? They have Azure, right? They have the .NET framework, the server, .NET server, as well as ASP.NET, Web Forms, or ASP.NET MVC or MVC Core. Those are the new ones, right? So everyone has their stack. We're using the mean stack. The mean stack stands for Mongo, Express, Angular, and Node. That's what makes up the word mean, right? Now, I told you guys earlier today that this is probably one of the most difficult courses at Centennial. And the reason why is, and everyone cries about this, they're like, mean is being mean to me, Tom, right? I really don't understand what's going on. Mean is really being mean, right? It's hard. It doesn't work properly. I don't understand the error that I'm getting, right? That's all common stuff. But we need to kind of focus to see what's going on here. So here, I'm creating a server. All right, now, once I've got my server object, this is new. This is actually a new object. It's not a reference to an existing server. This is a new server that I've created, right? I'm not using the new keyword. I'm using create server, and create server is rendering or returning a new server object. That's what it's doing. And it's sitting inside this server constant. Here, right, inside when I do listen, server.listen. Listen is a method that's built into all server objects. I'm listening for anything that's a request that's coming into port 3000 and hostname 127.0.0.1. Okay, how could I write this request response fat arrow? How could I write that different? This is the new way of doing it. The old way was written like this, a callback, right? This is the old way. That's how I used to write it, right? Function and then this, right? The new way is we take the function keyword away and the fat arrow replaces the return type. That's the new way. Similarly, what's this? That's an anonymous function that returns this. That's the body of the function. So I could write this like this as a callback function, right? That's what you're used to seeing. So fat arrow functions then, this is just an empty a function, anonymous function that takes no parameters, just like this is an anonymous function that takes 2 parameters, right? Request, response. Here, right, I'm just taking an anonymous function, an arrow that returns, that has no parameters and returns this. It does this, basically. This is what executes. So listen, my listen method listens for port 3000 and hostname 127.0.0.1. And as a callback, the callback function triggers when this listen function happens. So if I get a request on port 3000, 127.0.0.1, then it responds with console.log server running at da da da. Once I'm starting to listen. Okay, so this is the event. This thing here is the server event. That's what it is. The listen itself is a method that kicks off or triggers the event to happen, right? This is where the server gets created. Okay. Now, there's not a lot of going on here. This is a very simple server that just returns one thing. There's no routing going on here or anything. Okay, cool. How do I run this thing to make it work? Okay, by default, I want to have access to the folder in through command line that this thing resides in, this app.js. But I need an additional file as well to make it go properly. So one, there's 3 ways to get to the folder that this project resides in, right? The first way, right, is I can right-click underneath here on the solution and open in terminal or command prompt. That's the first way. Boom, right, and it pops up. So I could do that, and I'm right inside. My system automatically swims there. I prefer this way, but it's not the only way. I could also, with Visual Studio Code, go view integrated terminal. Integrated terminal pulls up a little terminal that's right inside Visual Studio Code. That's another way, right? I got to show you this so that way You don't say, Tom never showed us the integrated terminal. It's there. I don't like using the integrated terminal. I like using a separate terminal, right, myself. Next way, and this also works on Windows and Mac, right, is I've got my folder, right, and I pull up a terminal, and I go CD, which means change directory, and I drag and drop my window into here and press enter. Now I'm in there as well. That works on Windows and Mac. It's cross-compatible, the same kind of idea. All right, so those are 3 ways I can open up a terminal. Now I have a terminal here. This is the terminal window, right? Or my console, my command line, whatever you want to call it, right? Command prompt. If I do an ls on the Mac, I get app.js. That's not enough. On the PC, you do a dir, right, directory. I need to run the node command, or npm. I need to initialize my project as a node project. And the way to do that is npm init. Please do that. npm init. What npm init does is it runs a little wizard. And like I said earlier today, it's not the wizard with the funny hat and the wand, okay? It's a batch file that runs in the background, right? And you need to it's going to ask you some questions. And when you finish the questions, it'll create the file for you, all right? So, but now the name has to be lowercase. That's the requirement. COMP308, W2017, and then lesson 1B. Okay, good. Version I'll leave as is. Description, demo app for Node.js. Okay, entry point. It found my entry point, app.js. I'm okay with that. Test command, I don't have one. Git repository, I haven't set one up. Right? Keywords, Node.js. Author, that's me. And now you can put your name there. Okay, license, ISC, I'll accept that. You can also have MIT and other licenses. Notice that it asked me, is this okay? I'm creating this file. Are you sure this is okay? Of course, the answer is yes. When I do this, if I go back to my files, I can see that I got a package.json file that it automatically creates. And it gives me all those details. I can always change those details now if I want to, right? But instead of typing this package.json file myself, I can just get Node to do it for me, right? And I need this. This is like my manifest. This file, package.json, is going to tell other people, as well as myself, what are the dependencies for my project, right? Right now, I don't have any dependencies. It's just Node, okay? Okay, that's number 1. I want to run this project, and I want to run it in my command line. Remember, my command line is going to be my server. Just like we saw with MongoDB, my command line is going to be my server. Let's clear the command line. Let's make it easy, or CLS on a PC, right? How do I run it? I have to use the node command. Node, space, and then app.js, and press enter. Now I see this. Server running at HTTP, blah, 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 blah. But nothing's happening. I don't know what's going on. Well, I got to use a window, a browser to go in there. So I'm going to open up a new browser. Here's my new browser. And I got to run. I got to kind of swim to this point. I might as well go localhost 3000 because 127.0.0.1 is localhost, right? And press enter. And when I do, I get hello world. Hey, we made a brand new browser, a brand new server, a little node server that does hello world, and it's completely useless, right? That's okay, right? But look what it gave us. Where's the console? It did a console command. Take a look over here. Our app.js did a console log. Console logs are usually, we always think about console logs going on the browser. Hold on, you might say, Tom, right? We didn't do a console log on the browser. We did it on the server. And if it's on the server, the console is the console, which is this black thing right here, right? This thing here is the console, right? Mine's black, yours might be white. Maybe you change the color in the background. But this console right here, this terminal window, if you will, or command prompt on if you're a PC user, right, is where it's running. I have to keep this open for my server to run, okay? And I'm not getting any feedback. Like if I kind of go here and reset this thing, you know, it's one thing. What about if I want to change this from hello world to goodbye cruel world? Goodbye cruel world. Right, let's change that. So instead of hello world, we'll change to goodbye message. Cruel world. Cruel worlds. Right? And if I save this, I just saved it. And if I go back here and I refresh, we're expecting to see goodbye cruel world. How come it's not working? Who said that? Server is running. I'm running the server. It's right here. Right? So server's running, but I don't see a change. If I refresh again, it still doesn't show me anything. How come it's not changing? Save the project. How come it's not changing? Yes. Love it. The answer is I have to reload the server. Why? Because the server doesn't know about goodbye cruel world. All it was, the last iteration that's been running here inside the terminal was loaded with hello world. And that's what it knows. It needs to reload. If you make changes to the path, if you make changes to my app.js, the only way they're going to be reflected is if the server is reloaded, which means I have to go into this, stop the server, Control-C, and then run the command again, node app.js. And now, if I go back to the window and I refresh, it's there. Okay? But what an ugly process that is. You got to stop the server, go back, put it back in again. What a pain, you know what, right? Let's stop the server. All right. There's another tool we should download. And now we're talking tools. Okay, so we're going to do a bunch of downloads. Warning. All right, here we go. There's a tool that I like to use to test with called NodeMon, right? So if I look at NodeMon, NodeMon is actually an NPM tool, right? Here's NodeMon. NodeMon reloads automatically, right? Any change to the server, it detects, it watches the server for a change. Once it changes, bam, it reloads, right? And that's what I want. And this is how you install it. Whenever we install anything through NPM, and by the way, NPM, what is that? NPM is, it's like NuGet. It's like NuGet, but it's not. It's called Node Package Manager. It's very clear. NuGet, that's the Microsoft version, right? Node Package Manager is the Node version. And most companies, what they do is they create packages for their team. I make a really successful package that I want to use, like for example, an authentication package. I want to make a contact page, right? Am I going to remake that contact page over and over again if it's perfect? No, God, no. I'm going to make an NPM package, right? Store it in NPM. I can actually pay for it, private package, right? And then I can pull it down, and for my next project, it's ready to go. It scaffolds out the whole beautiful contact page that I had before, right? And it's available to my entire team, right? So NPM is used for that as well. But NPM is also used to drag, these public packages like NodeMon. NodeMon is a very successful public package that we can download. So let's do that. The -G option for when we install stuff is global. We install global packages. If we don't use this, it's only local to the project. -G means for every project. Okay? Let's try this out. So I'm going to say node or NPM, sorry, install. That's the verb that we're going to use. Install, right? And then NodeMon. Usually that's what I do. And then -G for global. You can also do -G NodeMon. It's okay. When I do that, it goes out. It grabs NodeMon. That's the package, and installs it on your command line. So if you have NPM available now, I can always do NodeMon, right? And the way I can run it is like this. Watch. NodeMon. Enter. Bam. Right now, why is this good? And like I said, it kind of reloads things automatically, right? That's what we're hoping. So that means if we make a change, let's see if I can pull this off here so I can show you both screens. So here I've got, my thing here is my node server, right? And instead of goodbye cruel world, I want to go back to hello beautiful world, right? Hello beautiful world. Something weird and obtuse. And if I save it, watch, I just change it, save it, bam, it reloads. I didn't do anything. I don't have to go there, stop the server, reload the server. It just reloads automatically. It detects that something's changed and reloads. This is very awesome when you change HTML pages, CSS pages, anything like that that changes, it reloads perfectly, and NodeMon is the tool for us. All right, so we're going to be using NodeMon instead of the node built-in node command because it's a little better, right? And notice that, of course, if I go back to my pages, so if I have my, I don't know where I put my page for this one. probably somewhere in here. If I go localhost 3000 and I get hello beautiful world, that's back to normal again. If I do a view source, just to kind of show you this, right? View page source, nothing to it. This is not an HTML page. There's no doc type. There's nothing. All this is returning is a small little response to my request. That's all it is. That's all it is, right? So that's bad. That doesn't really tell us much, okay? There's a couple of additional tools I want you to download, all right? While we're at it, let's just keep downloading now that we're in there. Download. Okay, yeah. Anything, yeah, it detects any changes to our project. As long as you run it within your folder, your root folder, detects any change to your project and reruns your project, reloads your project, so that your server is always running, right? If you ran it somewhere else, like let's say in another directory inside the project, let's say you went to like, I don't know, scripts directory, then it would work. But unless there's some file that's being loaded, like some, the main app.js file or index.js file, it's not going to work. So right now we don't have an HTML page at all. All we have is our server page. That app.js page or server.js page or index.js page is just a node page. That's all it is. And it runs a little server in the background, and that's all it does. Sometimes, though, we test some index.html pages, and we don't want to test it with our the full node server, right? We just want to test that index.html page so it's formatted properly or whatever, right? We do a little experiment, and I still want to test it within a server environment. One of the best ways to do that is to have a little node server that's ready to go, and you can download and install that. It's called Light Server, and I've used it before. The other one I used before was HTTP server, but Light Server is actually a little better. So if you want to look find that where that is, if you search for light-server npm, right? This is the one, right? And Light Server, I also want to point something else out. With our npm node package manager, you can also see a couple things. One, what version is the latest version of this package I'm downloading, right? And 2.2.2, right? And also the stats. Take a look at the stats here. 4,000 downloads in the last day, right? It's pretty popular, right? 27,000 downloads this last week, right? 104,000 downloads in a month. Hey, you know what? This is an active package. You want to download active packages because some guy or girl might put up a package. You might search for something you want to do, but there's no activity. There's no updates. Why is that bad? It means that maybe the community project is dead, right? And you might be using a package that doesn't work anymore for the latest version of Node, right? So always look to the stats to make sure that it's the latest package a package is active. Now you can make Light Server work locally as a development dependency, and you can also make it work globally so it works in all projects. So the way we would do that for all projects is npm install light-server -g. And if you enter it and you run it, it looks like this. Okay, it's going to download and install that stuff. Now we're going to focus on Node for the next week or so. But after that, we're going to do something with a middleware project called Express. Okay? Because remember, we talked about mean stack as Mongo, Express, Angular, and Node, right? Express. But in order for me to install Express, there's a couple things I need to do. One, a lot of times I want to install the Express generator. So let's get the Express generator, right? So if I go up to here, I want to type in Express generator to see where that is. Okay, and it looks like this. Express generator, the way you install it is npm install express-generator -g. Why? Why am I doing a generator? Because it scaffolds out a whole Express application. We're not going to do it now, but it's coming, and I told you this is an installation date. So get this, please. All right, npm install express-generator -g. I'll do that together with you. Right, so clear. This is the same on Windows, by the way. npm install express-generator -g. I go out and grab the express generator. Now what happens? I just did this morning. I'm doing it again now. Is that bad? Actually, no. What it does is if you already have an npm package that you've already previously downloaded and you download it again, it replaces it with a new package, right? So don't worry if you've downloaded it before. If you can't remember if you've downloaded this before later on down the line somewhere, you know, it's okay. And sometimes it tells you, if the best packages tell you, hey, by the way, we just came up with a new package. Download it again or update your npm package. Another one that I really like a lot is Bower. And some people who know me have used it with me in the past. If you go to bower.io, here's another package that I'm using. And bower.io, what it does, it's the package manager for the web. This package manager npm is not for the web necessarily. It's for Node and for Node packages to give functionality to Node, to the Node server, right? And to my command line. Bower doesn't do that. Bower is a package manager to get stuff like jQuery, Bootstrap, and all kinds of front end packages like Angular or whatever. You know, that's what I want to use Bower for. And so I may do that because we're not going to just build flat sites with that give me hello world, right? We're going to build a Bootstrap site because this is not a CSS course, right? So I need to use Bower to get those things because I'm not going to go to the Bootstrap site, download everything, and install it in my package. No. I want to get it automatically, and Bower is going to help me do that, right? So let's do that with Bower. So please do this: npm install -g Bower. I'll do it with you. So again, and again, it's not going to hurt me. npm install -g Bower. Now, if you're a Mac user, notice that I haven't done sudo command once, or sudo, right? Because I installed it with Homebrew. If I install it with Homebrew, everything's golden. If I installed it through the Node.js site, I would have to do sudo every single time. Put my password. Every command I'm doing, I'd have to put my password. That's a pain in the ass for me. Sorry. And that's why I use the Homebrew version to install Node. Okay, so I've got, Bower installed. I've got, NodeMon installed. I've got Express installed. There's another one that I want you to grab. It's called Gulp. So there's Gulp. Gulp.js. If you go to gulpjs.com, here's the installation command, right? Now, don't do these ones. Don't do this one or these ones. These are for actual projects, right? The one you want is the global one. That's the first one you want, gulp.cli. What is Gulp? Gulp is automation for your web project. Think about what you want to automate, like minification. I want to minify my files, my image files. I want to minify my CSS files. I want to minify all the other files in my project. Why am I minifying? To improve performance, especially on the server, right? Gulp allows us to do that. Gulp is an automation tool we're going to use later on in this course, right? So let's grab it now. So again, I'm going to go in there, clear the screen. I'm going to go npm install gulp-cli and then -g. And install Gulp locally on my machine. So we've got Gulp, we've got Bower, we've got NodeMon, and by the way, there's others we're going to grab later on. Those are little installations. These aren't major installations. The major installations for me are Node, Git, and Mongo. That's why I said installation day, right? This stuff we need to get going, right? But we're going to do other little packages as we go, right? For that are project specific that I can't do right now because I don't have a project that I really want to work with, right? The little npm, the little Node project we're using is just an example project, right? So questions so far about the npm, the Node package manager, right? Any questions around that? Again, it's like the #1 tool we use. Without Node package manager, we could not add functionality to Node. And Node by itself is pretty nude, right? I'm telling you right now, it's pretty skimpy, right? We want to make it more robust. And we do that by adding functionality, by adding modules to it. Like, for example, Passport. Passport gives us authentication. Mongoose helps us connect to MongoDB, right? And a bunch of other ones that we're going to add in later on when we build up our Express app, okay? Okay, cool. So we've got some the packages we need. you know, I think we haven't put together a, you know, I haven't shared this with you on GitHub. I think it's a great place to start sharing stuff with you on GitHub, right? So we haven't done that yet. So we'll do that, and then we'll end for the day, because I think we've done a lot today. We've covered Node, and we kind of covered a bunch of different concepts and so on. And next week, remember, we're going to get right into chapter 1, maybe chapter 2 of the book. But right now, I want to kind of put this up on GitHub. All right. Yes.
Sorry to take it back.
No problem.
At the end of the line, where it started off with it, I got an error.
Here?
No, just at the 11.
Okay, here. Got an error right there?
Yeah, it says deceleration of statement expected.
That means you probably missed something, or you maybe copy paste it. Just copy and paste this thing again, this whole thing, because you probably maybe it was a copy paste, or maybe when I copied it or changed something, you changed it, and then you forgot to put a semicolon or something. You just go to the site. The way where I got this, remember, I went to Node.js, and I got it from here. Nodejs.org, right? And about. If you go to the about page. Okay. This is a great little resource, by the way. If you actually read this, right, what this means, when it talks about blocking versus non-blocking code, this is a really great little read, right? And it talks about what blocking and non-blocking is. And we're going to cover this later on, like next week. But it's neat. Like Node has all kinds of information right on the site. The documentation for the site is very complete, actually, including ECMAScript's 6 features, Node.js 5, and earlier versions of Node.js, all kinds of stuff here. Anyways, let's get back to this. So what I want to do is I want to set up a Git repository for this first. Remember what we talked about? Let's do my local commits first. Right now, I'm going to start quizzing you. Now imagine if this is a real quiz, I would have asked the following questions. What's the first command that I need to do to set up my Git repository for the first time locally? Git init, right? That's what we talked about. So let's try that. So again, to get to the terminal, I'm here already, right? I just have to clear my screen and type in git init. Hey, look what I got here. I got this thing that says master. Now, if you're using a Mac, I highly recommend downloading something called iTerm. Okay, iTerm is a way better terminal than a regular terminal. It gives you code coloring like this, right? And it actually adds some functionality to your terminal. So find iTerm, right? Because that's what I'm using. Okay, but this is weird. It's give me the master branch, and it's got a little star next to it that says, oh man, that's a problem. But how come on the Windows side, right? I don't see that on the Windows side, man. Come on, that is pretty. That's pretty good, right? Well, let me show you this. So if I go to the Mac side, right? I did this earlier today. If I go to the Mac side, grab this project, copy it, and again, I'm virtualizing, right? So I can do this, and I kind of paste it here. Let's paste it. It went somewhere. I don't know where it went, but it went somewhere. There it is. Took a time to get there. Here's my COMP308. I'm going to pull up VS Code here on Windows, and I'm going to drag and drop the files over here. Right? There's 1B, and I'm going to open up in command prompt. Open in command prompt. So this is the Windows side, right? And then I'm going to do the same thing. Git init. Hey man, how come I don't see that master thing that I see nicely over here? I like that master thing, right? You can get it. You can get it because it comes with Git shell. If you look at Git shell, right? Here's Git shell right here. It comes with your desktop app, right? If you're a Windows user. And I'm launching command prompt, but you can set up Visual Studio to launch Git shell or PowerShell instead, if you really want to. So I would challenge you to try and look that up. There's ways of configuring Visual Studio Code to open up a different terminal window, not the standard command prompt, which means give you some nice stuff. Let me show you what that means. So if I pull up Git shell, here's Git shell. Right, it looks almost the same. Well, and then if I go to, hold on a second, if I go to that folder, right, which is that COMP308, this folder right here, right, lesson 1B, And I'm going to this is on the Windows side, CD space, and then I just drag and drop, and I press enter. Hey, look, not only does it give me what I got on the Mac, but it gives me this beautiful stuff too. Look, I get this red area right here that says +2, and then a bunch of other stuff here, right? It says master, master's the master branch. +2 means there's 2 files that are inside my folder, right, that have not been added to the staging area. Remember, the staging area is that middle space. Before it goes into the .git folder that I talked about earlier, it's almost like I'm check marking which ones are going to go in. I got 2 files that I'm not going to put so far into the staging area. Okay, what's my next command? I said git init. What's my next command? Git add dot, right? Git add dot adds everything. So git add dot. Cool. Now it turns green. This is git shell, right? That's why I like it on the PC. On the Mac, if I was to do the same thing, it won't be so dramatic, right? It would look like this: git add dot, right? It doesn't do anything like that like it does on the PC. I'm okay with this, by the way, both ways. Mac, as long as I see master there, I'm good. Okay, cool. We're still not complete. This means I've staged. The green means I've staged 2 files, right? I don't know what those files are right now. It doesn't list them, but I staged 2 files. Okay. Next command. What's the next command I want to do? Git commit. Git commit. It does. It kind of. I want to name my snapshot here, right? So it's git commit -m for message, right? And then initial commit or first commit. That's what I want to put in there. That's the best practice. If I do that and go enter, now I see this. Now it shows me some information. It says these files, right, have been added. These 2 files, app.js and package.json, have been added into my snapshot. And if I do a git log, I can see that I have 1 commit with this hash. This is the code, the commit code right there. Okay, let's try again on the Mac, just to show you that again. So git add dot git commit -m, and I'll say initial commit. Make it different, I'll make it capitals. And I have the same kind of idea. A couple of files have changed, 2 insertions. Okay, so that's interesting, right? Now, am I connected to GitHub? No, right? Because remember, I need to do the next 2 commands. But I can't do those 2 commands because I don't have a repository that I'm connecting to yet. Because most of us are Windows users, I'm going to go to do it on the Windows side, but it's the same thing on the Mac side. On the Windows side, I want to go to my GitHub account, right? Now my GitHub account, I want to go to the proper account. For me, it's Centennial, right? Here's Centennial. I added this one from this morning. This was 4 hours ago. I want to make another one. There's 2 ways to add a repository up on GitHub, all right? One way is the plus sign up here. The other one down here is the new button, okay? I'm going to use the plus sign, new repository. Now, for me, I have more than 1 organization, so I can switch them. I'm going to go to Centennial. For you, you're only going to have 1. And my repository name is unique to your account. Doesn't matter. You and I, like, let's say, Franco and I, we can share the same repository name because your account's different than mine account, right? It's not a global thing all across GitHub, right? But if I sat there and I said something like, COMP308, right, W2017, and here's lesson 1. If I did that, I'm going to get an X. I'm going to say, oh, wait, you already have lesson 1 from this morning. But if I put a B, I get a check because now I don't have that anymore. Now I'm going to press enter. When I do that, it's going to give me some instructions. Take a look. They're almost exactly the same instructions I've already made, except for instead of adding just a README file, I'm adding in everything. So I've already done these 3. But these 2, it's going to help me do automatically. I'm going to copy these 2 last lines, and I'm going to go to my terminal, right? Here's my Git shell. And now to paste them in Git shell, I have to kind of, again, this is a virtual machine, so I got to right-click up here, edit, and then paste. If I've copied them properly, and you can see I haven't copied them properly. That's not why it's not working. So let's just go back and do that again. Sorry about that. So copy, right-click, edit. Oh, it's still not working. Okay, let's try doing it with manually. Sorry. Again, this is my bad, not your bad. because that's what you know. Or I can also type them in too, right? But I don't want to type them. I want to kind of copy paste. So there it is right there. So I'm copying at this point. Hopefully that'll let me do that. And if it doesn't do that, I'm gonna start typing. Right. You know. Oh, there it is. Paste. Paste. So what did it do? It said git remote add, like we said. It's the name is origin. That's the remote. And here's the link, github.com. Remember I told you a URL with the ending of .get, right? And then git push -u for unconditional. I'm going to go to the origin remote and the master branch. That's where I'm pushing to. And then press enter. Now, if your command line doesn't have the credentials, right, entered into it, and we're going to talk about how you figure out the Git credentials, it's going to ask you to log in. It's going to say, please log into your Git account, right? However, if you've set up, if you've configured, and you haven't right now, if you've configured your command line for Git, it will know your credentials. And if you install the desktop app for Git, it kind of does it automatically for you, right? But you can do it manually too. So if I say, you know, kind of enter credentials for Git and, you know, kind of Windows, right? And it might give you something like this, caching your GitHub password in Git. And notice that it says git config -- global credential -helper wincred, right? And what this does is it kind of caches everything so that it remembers you on GitHub, in Windows, right? On the command prompt. Another good one is this one. Why is Git always asking for my password, right? I like this one. Because you haven't set it up. That's why you haven't set up your password caching. Of course, it's going to take you right back there where we just were, right? And furthermore, if you want to configure Git, right, it tells you how to do so. You got to set up a couple things, right? First of all, when we do Git config, you also have to put in your first name or first name, last name, and your stuff. So if I want to say Git config, so I'll say Git config, right, for username, right? You can see that here's my Git first time setup. And sometimes what happens is it asks you to put in your identity. And this is the stuff that's missing for most people because they haven't done this. Git config -- global user.name is equal to whatever your name is. And then git config -- global user.email is equal to whatever email is, right? Once you've done this, then you can log in. It asks you just for your email and your password every time, right? But I recommend you fix it. Fix your Win credentials. I can't do it for you. This is something you got to do on your own, right? And it's different for everybody because depending on how you installed GitHub, if you went through the desktop tool, then you have some of it's already there. If you went through git-scm, then none of it's probably there, right? So you have to do some of it yourself. So you have to look that up. Now, once it's done, and if you did it properly, right, then guess what? If I refresh the screen, I can see now that up online, I have two files, app.js and package.json, right? And they're inside of my Centennial College COMP308 W2017 Lesson 1B. Check it out. Go up there and check out my account right now. Because this, my friends, is where I'm going to store under Centennial College all of my code, like I said earlier, right? Okay, so go there and check it out. Also, if I check out this one, COMP308, this one I just looked at, I have one commit. Take a look at the commit. Here's the commit, initial commit, right? And there's the code, 9BCF327. That looks a little short, right? If I click onto it, though, it gives me the whole hash. And this commit should be identical, right, to the one locally. So if I want to check that out, I can do a CLS, and I can go git log, and I can see that that commit is this commit, 9BCF332, blah, 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 9BCF32701. They're the exact same hash. And the reason why it's like this is because, like I told you, they generate that hash based on who you are, what your machine is, what your name, the name of your account, the name of your repository, the time of day, la, 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 la. They create a kind of a hash, so it's unique. Okay? Are we good? So that is the process for us to push to GitHub for the first time. Okay, but what about if I want to change something, right? So I'm here in my files, right? And my app.js, here's my app.js. And I also have my package.json file, and I already know my Git repository. And what if I want to run my little wizard again, right? Can I do that? Yeah, I can do it again. I can go like npm, right, init, right, if I really want to. And it's going to say that you already have, a package.json file. But notice that I can go through here, and now it's going to add the Git repository and change to my ISC license. So now it adds some information, right? Here's my repository stuff. It also adds all this information into my package.json file. It doesn't take anything away from what we had before, right? Demo app for Node.js, right? My name, all that stuff, it can write in there and press yes. Now that I've changed that, I have a change I made, right, to my files. See, I have one change. I've actually noticed that I haven't added anything. There's 3 columns here, right? The first one is something I added. The second one is something I modified. The third one is something I deleted, right? So the second one is the modification when I modified something. So I'm going to do the same thing. What are the steps? Git add dot, right? Because I'm adding that into the staging area, right? Git commit -m, right? I'll say updated package.json. And if you notice my action word is updated. Whenever I do a commit message, it's a snapshot. I'm naming the snapshot. What did I change? I updated my package.json file. I did something. And what are the 2 main reasons where I want you to do your commits? Some kind of update, right? Actually, there's 3. You added a feature, right? You fixed a bug, right? One of those 3 things, right? I want you to always do a commit for one of those 3 things. Then you're going to be okay. Because if you just put stuff on GitHub, it's only worth 2 points out of 4 whenever you submit your assignments, right? Your assignments for GitHub are always going to request this. 2 points for putting it up on GitHub. Give me the link. That's like a backup, right? And then 2 more points, right? 2 more points if you kind of follow the process, the development process, and you use GitHub for development. Like you're actually using it as you go. That's the way we should do it. I'm not finished that deal, right? So I've done my commit. Now locally, if I go to git log, I have 2 commits, right? I have one here, I have one here. 2 commits. How about remotely? Do I have 2 commits? No, I have to push it again. I'm gonna go git push, and instead of -u this time, I don't need to do -u. I just need to do origin to the origin remote, origin master, and press enter. If I do this properly, it's going to push everything. It's going to, if you haven't done it properly, if you haven't set up your credentials, it's going to ask you to log in again and push everything to Git, right? Now, if I go back to GitHub, right? If I go back to my code, you can see that I got 2 commits. And there they are, updated by package JSON file and initial commit. Okay? And I'm going to keep on getting more and more commits as we go. Now, GitHub, that stuff I've shown you today, is the bare minimum that you need to know, right? Why? Because it allows for issue tracking, right? I can create bugs. I can also create task tracking that I want to do certain things. We can also use project management. That's a new thing that they've added in last year with GitHub. So it's all built into GitHub, right? I can do pull requests. I can do all kinds of things. There's graph, there's analytics, and so on. I can also star a repository if I really like it, right? If I think that's a really cool repository, I can star it, right? And if I click fork, I can copy a repository that belongs to somebody else into my own GitHub, right? And why would I want to do that? Because sometimes I want to make my own branch of somebody else's work and offer them up a change. Say, hey, here's something that I've done on my own. I've updated your files. Here's my pull request. Pull request means, hey, pull my files into your master branch. What do you think? And then sometimes if they look at your files and they like them, they'll do it. They'll pull their files, and you now become a developer. You're not just a user anymore, right? You've made something. You've attached something to somebody else's project, and it's expanded. So Git is very, very powerful. And we're just started to use it in this class, just barely scratching the surface, right? It's a lot to remember, but if you use it regularly, it's your friend, right? Where it gets tough is when Colton and I are working together, right? He works on a file and I work on the same file. Then he uploads to GitHub, right? He does a commit, and then I go and do a commit, but it's the same file. And GitHub says, hold on a second. You're accessing the same file. You're trying to upload to the same file, and both commits, right? You have a different set of commits than I do, and I have a different set of commits than you do, and we have a block. We have a conflict. Which one are you going to take? Mine or yours, kind of thing, right? And so you have to decide. You have to kind of say which one's more the one I want. Do I want Colton's or I want mine, right? It's called conflict resolution, and that happens all the time. And to avoid that, what we normally do is create something called a branch, which we're going to get into later in the course, right? How do I do branching? So I do a branch for every new feature I would create, right? I don't touch the master branch, the build, okay? Don't break the build, right? Don't touch the master branch, right? And then what happens is I make my own branch. I run around, I do my feature, I test it out, and then when I'm done, if I'm going to say someone's got to be the director of the Git repository, right? This is the way I like to work. Let's, for example, you're the director of the Git repository. I'm going to send you a pull request. You're going to look at my code and say, I like it or I don't like it, and then you're going to merge my code back into the master branch, and that's control. There's no conflicts there because I've given you a fresh set of stuff to do. It's a separate branch altogether that you're going to merge back into the main branch. Okay. Now there's still might be some conflicts as well, but the conflict resolution is a lot lower, right? A lot easier to fix. All right. We've got our Git repository, right? Now, next week, things we're going to cover. How do I take that Git repository and host it on Heroku, right? I want to host it live, right? I don't want to, it's right now it's trapped on my computer and on GitHub. It doesn't do anything right now, right? I want to put it on Heroku. And again, remember, you have to sign up for Heroku, right? Here's Heroku. And if you log into Heroku, one thing to note, let's see, hopefully you remember my credentials. Of course it didn't, right? Because my credentials are all messed up. Let me see if I did it right. No, it's not even that one. And I'm going to forget my credentials, and then it's going to be all bad. Oh, somehow I remembered. I don't know, right? So I've got a bunch of little apps that I kind of built out, right? Just to fix things, just to try things out, right? And then some of these were done way long ago, like a long time ago, right? But the way we want to do it is I want to build a new app, right? Just to give you don't have to do this with me, just watch, okay? I'm doing a new app. I can give it a name, like for example, COMP308. It's got to be unique. This is a unique name, right? Winter 2017, and lesson 1. And then where am I running? Am I running in the United States or Europe? I want to do United States. Create my app. Here's my app, right? Well, the great thing about this is it allows you to connect to GitHub. This is called continuous integration, where I pulls from GitHub all the time. So go here, right, as an example. And here's my GitHub. I can authorize Heroku to look at my GitHub. Here's my Centennial College, right? And in GitHub, I can search for a repo. So here's my repo, COMP308, Winter 2017, Lesson 1B. That's one I want. So I search for that one. Here it is. I can connect it. And once I click connect, right, what it does is it goes out to GitHub and loads everything onto Heroku, right? And I can enable automatic deploys. And what do you think this does? Anything changes on GitHub automatically changes on Heroku. So instant update for the website. Okay? So let's just do this. Enable automatic deploys. Okay? And I can also deploy the branch. And you can see that it receives code from GitHub and it goes through here. And if there's any issues, right? It'll show them right here inside this little console. All right. How do I test to see that this is good? It's right here, view. And if I kind of click the view button, and if I did everything correctly, then I should see something here. But I'm getting an application error, and this is common with Heroku, right? Even though I said, hey, everything worked, I'm getting an application error. There's a couple reasons why I'm getting an error, and I'll talk about this next week. But one of them is it's looking for specific files, right? A lot of times it gives you a build log. So here's my build log, right? And you need to follow. Even though I built everything, it didn't do it completely. And if you look through here, it says resolving node version, latest stable 6.9.1. What version am I wearing? Did I tell Heroku? Did I tell it what is explicitly what node version I'm running? Nope. That's one of the issues. So I got to fix that problem, right? Let me look for some other problems that you'll see, right? Because I said, look, here's the stuff in the package.json. Engines.node, unspecified. Engines.npm, the package.json, unspecified. That's bad. That means my npm package might be different than the npm package that's being hosted on Heroku. So I got to fix that, right? So it's kind of resolving the node version. It's skipping the cache restore, and it's going down. And you got to read the what's happening here. Bower components nothing to cache. Build succeeded, but it says empty. Empty because even though it succeeded, it didn't do anything, right? It says this app may not specify any way to start a node process, right? Which means inside my package.json, I need to point out what the start, what I'm starting with, in my package. And those are the things I got to fix. These are little things, but this is the reason why we have this, right? This package.json is the thing that we got to fix. And we're going to do that next week in order for us to host things on Heroku. By the way, instead of me doing things like this, I can also download and install something called Heroku Toolbelt, which is something that I can install on my command line. And I can directly go from my command line right to Heroku with bypassing Git altogether, right? So there's lots of ways to do this kind of stuff. Although I highly recommend Git is the proper way to do things. Questions? Covered a lot of stuff today, right? Most of it installation, which is what what I wanted to do mostly. Most important thing to take away from this is this: JavaScript is everywhere, right? JavaScript is on the front end. JavaScript is on the back end with Node. JavaScript is on Mongo, right, on the database. And that's what we're learning in this course, the mean stack and emerging technologies with JavaScript. The first part of our course is going to be Node and Express, and we're going to have full CRUD happen with Express, right? So CRUD meaning create, read, update, and delete with MongoDB, and authentication before week 7, where we're going to do our little test, our midterm test, right? But then after week 7, we're going to get into more interesting stuff with AngularJS, right? Which is AngularJS 2. Like I said, it's a kind of a complex way of doing things, right? Because AngularJS 2 just kind of resolved. It's kind of come out of hiding over the last little while. There's a bit of setup for AngularJS 2, and you need to know TypeScript, right? It's another need to know, right? Questions around this stuff? Yeah, we're going to do it, but I'm saying you need to know all these things. We need to build out TypeScript. I got to train you on TypeScript too. It can't just be about Angular, right? For us to use Angular as a front end, you need to know TypeScript, you need to know Node, you need to know Express, you need to know, right? Lots of stuff, right? And we need to get there before the second half of the semester. Next week, I'm going to give you your first assignment. Assignment 1 is coming, right? And obviously, what am I going to test you on? Node and Express, right? We haven't done Express yet. But expect an Express-based project to build. It's going to be an individual project, right, for you guys, a little assignment, and it's probably going to be worth 10%, not 8, right, like it says in the outline, okay? So be prepared for that. And you're probably going to have a couple weeks to do it, all right? Couple weeks. No DB. No, just an Express app, very simple Express app. It's going to be the simplest one you're going to do, right? Please start early. like I asked you last time, don't wait. Waiting to start this stuff is difficult. People who traditionally wait until the last minute get caught, right? Submit and submit often. And that's the way I want you to do it. You can do unlimited attempts, right? There's limited attempts available when we set up the Dropbox on eCentennial, okay? So don't wait till the last day. I don't want to hear on Slack, Tom, can you help me with my code? And it's like 11:50 and it's due 11:59, right? Not going to happen, guys. First of all, it's after 8 p.m., number one, right? I don't answer calls after 8, typically, right? Number one. Second thing is, it's the last day. If you expect me in the afternoon on Friday to come over and meet with you, right, because you're having problems because your build broke and it's the last day, no. You've had 2 weeks, right? That means you left it to the last moment. Don't do that. Work on it early. Come to me early and say, I don't get it. I have a problem. Then I'll sit with you. Or we'll do a Google, some kind of Google call or whatever. No problem. Leverage your peers, right? Couple weeks. So next week it'll be due. I'll give it to you next week, and it'll be due with week 4. Yeah, lots of time, right? Like it'll probably be due in like February at some point, right? At this point. So don't worry. It's not like you don't have time to do it. You have lots of time to do assignment 2. Meanwhile, remember that I also can run little quizzes and little labs without notification because it's bonus, right? If you're here, you have an opportunity. There was an opportunity to do one of these today. I could have said, okay, the lab is set up GitHub. Well, I've done this many, many times, and some of you already have that, so it's not really fair, right? The better one would be set up a little Express site on Heroku. Hint, hint, for next week, right? I might do a little Express or Node site for next week on Heroku, right? That's going to be full kind of bore. It's going to you're going to do a Node app, GitHub, and Heroku all next week. Chances are, try and practice that on your own. So when you're ready to go, when I ask you for it, you're ready to go. You've got it, and then you put it up on eCentennial, and you're done. 1% bonus, right? That's how I want to run things. So when we're in there, we do the bonus lab, and you do some practice, right? So you get a hold of what you're working with, right? Get the book. I think it's a great way to to start pre-studying for the stuff we're going to be talking about. The book is a good book. It talks all the concepts that I'm going to talk, kind of go over next week. And you might have some good questions if you read the book ahead of time, or at least look at it, right? Look at a couple things and say, I don't understand what that means. Hopefully Tom will explain it. And then I'll come up with the PowerPoint presentations and we'll have something to talk about. Don't wait for me to come up with the PowerPoint presentations, and then you're going to have tons of questions and we won't be able to finish them all, right? Because we have lots of material in this course. I'm going to put them up on eCentennial eventually, yeah. The other thing that I'm also going to do is this. I want to try and give you some in-class time when we get the assignments. So next week, as an example, I'm going to give you assignment number 1. Here's what I don't want you to do. Here's assignment number 1. Thanks, Tom. See ya. Right? Don't do that. Don't go, thanks, Tom. See ya. Say, cool. I'm going to start working on this now. And then I'm going to go around and help you guys out. Right? So you've already started your assignment. If the worst thing to do would be like, thanks, Tom. Bye. Right, and then leave early, like an hour early or something like that. That's not the right response, right? So try and take advantage of the class time, because you're going to have a couple of an hour or a little bit more than an hour every week we get together. That's why I want to try and plan for you to do that. So that way, it's not like you have a lot of homework, because I know that there's people who have six courses. How about 7? 7 courses? 8 courses, right? All right, so a lot of courses going on. There's people who have a lot of stuff going on. So the more homework I give you, more chances that you're going to leave it till the last day on the Friday night at, near midnight or after midnight. Also, late assignments, like I said, 20% every day, right? I would accept late assignments. There's some professors that will not accept any late assignments. I'm not like that. I accept them. This semester, I'm going to try and be on time with everything that I do. If I'm on time, the deal is you have to be on time. If I'm not on time, I'll give you time. Okay, that's the deal. All right, so people know me. Sometimes I'm late. Most of the time I'm late. If I'm late, it's okay for you to be late. If I'm not late, though, 20% off, because then it starts rolling with everything else. If I'm late, then you're late, and then everything is late. Yes. The book? Yeah, it's. We'll talk after. I'll show you where it is. Anyone else have any questions? Please sign up for Slack if you haven't done so. Otherwise, see you next week, guys. Expect assignment number 1 to come out next week. Thank you. And maybe everything else too.
This is really bugging me.